I apologize. Here in the back.
Hi. I was wondering, numbers about women engaged in religion, the church and all that, what are those based on? Because I'm thinking, especially like in rural communities, churches as social outlets. And like my mom sings in church choir, and she's a confirmed atheist. And all her friends know it. My parents go on church activities because it's cheaper and they're usually fun. Because it's a social outlet, that doesn't mean they're religious. So what do you base your numbers on?
Yeah, so it really depends on the poll. Some polls explicitly ask about, do you believe in God? And you still see more women who believe in God than men. But they also ask, like some of the stuff I cited earlier, they ask like, how often do you attend church? And you see women attending church and doing the social functions more. And I think women, I don't want to argue if it's like a biological thing or a social thing, let's not get into that, but I think we're socialized to need to be more social and to have those networks in place. And so I think even if you are technically an atheist, a lot of women still go to church for that reason. And so that's why I think that we need to have these communities available. So if there are these atheist women who basically are only going to church for friends or out of boredom, that they have an alternative that they can go to. But yeah, the poll, it really depends on what the question is in the poll. But usually across the board, depending how you ask it, women are more religious or do more religious activities than men.
Right.
Sure.
DJ Gropty is the head guy, the Randy Association, isn't it?
Yeah, the James Randi Educational Foundation.
Yeah, do you think it's a good thing? I know he came out against the whole thing, said he wouldn't put in place any changes. But do you think it's good that he's kind of in the limelight, or should he be removed from that position because he takes it?
That's a loaded question. In case anyone couldn't hear this, he was asking about DJ Grophy, who's the president of James Randi Educational Foundation, which is where a lot of the recent controversy has been on the internets. Basically, what happened, for people who don't know, is when this anti-harassment stuff came up that we want these policies in place, a lot of other conferences like Skepticon said, yeah, we're going to put it in place, we're going to implement it, that was a great idea. And TAM actually did have an anti-harassment policy last year. It was a little more nebulous, but they had something, it was good, and we were very happy about that. But people were asking, is TAM going to do it again this year? Are they going to improve it? Are they going to have set methods in place for dealing with these written claims of sexual harassment? And DJ went on a rant about how TAM has dropped off in their female attendees that have registered from like 40% to 18%, I think were the numbers. And he blamed feminist bloggers like me, Rebecca Watson, and Ophelia Benson. Of course, he didn't name names. He named names on some more private back channels. He said feminist bloggers were the reasons why people weren't going to TAM, because we had scared away all the women from these conferences because we dared to talk about sexism in the community. Obviously, this got a lot of people mad, especially Rebecca Watson, who's been a huge supporter of TAM for the last 7 years. She's raised tons of money for them. She always goes and puts on shows for them during the conference. The Skeptics always have had grants for the last 2 years to send more women to TAM. They're being very proactive about sending women to TAM. And he blamed her for doing that. And he eventually kind of said he's sorry to her specifically, not everyone else. I don't think he should step down. I think he needs to give a more legitimate apology to everyone involved, and not just Rebecca. I think honestly, he just came off as clueless during the whole situation, and that if I were doing PR for my organization and someone said, well, part of the problem is he said no sexual harassment has ever occurred at TAM, and then people came out of the woodwork actually saying, hey, I submitted a report last year about being sexually harassed at TAM, and so it makes it seem like he has no idea what's going on at his own conference, or that he's covering it up. And if I was a PR guy for an organization, my response would have been, I'm so sorry that you had that experience at our conference. We want to make sure it's safe for everyone, welcoming for everyone. Please let me know what happened so we can make sure it doesn't happen again. The end. That's all he had to say. He didn't. No one was saying that TAM was especially evil or especially sexist. I mean, I've written favorably about TAM many times, so has all the other women that he involved. And like I said, because of people writing about this and because of him calling them out, Ophelia had to not go to TAM, where she was supposed to speak, because she got threats about it. So I don't think he should step down. I just think he needs to really reconsider how he's handling the situation.
say sorry as well.
Say sorry and mean it. Sure.
Do you think there's something about the atheist or skeptical mindset that kind of makes us go to extremes? Because this issue, there's a lot of nuanced issues about how men are supposed to treat women in public places, whether it's okay to ask somebody out or whether what behaviour is acceptable. And do you think there's something specifically about atheists that we're not really used to the nuance? People sort of take a corner and really fight from that corner rather than compromising and meeting somewhere in the middle or learning the other person's point of view?
Yeah, I think in general, most atheists are just like every other person in the world. I don't think that we like to admit that. We like to feel special and super intelligent and awesome. But I think to a certain extent we're just like everyone, and everyone has a problem with these sort of nuanced issues, especially sexism. But I think that problem specific to atheists is because we're so hyper-rational and hyper-skeptical that a lot of times when a woman says, oh my god, I was groped by speaker X, if you don't have like photographic evidence that it happened, there's like, well, you don't have evidence that it happened, therefore it didn't happen, I can't support that claim. I've heard that made so many times when...
You need 4 men.
Yeah, I need 4 men singing what's happened. Not so different from Islam. So I think that contributes to it, in that when women are saying, well, this is my experience, and this is what happened to me, people will come out screaming, well, that's an anecdote. An anecdote doesn't equal data. And like, yes, that's great, we need real data, but there isn't someone who's studying the atheist movement systematically for their PhD project. We have the information that we have. Well, maybe, someone should go do it. Are you doing that? Go do it.
Can I just ask, what was your viewpoint on Richard Dawkins' response to the Rebecca Watson? Everyone loves to gossip.
Oh, yes. Well, my viewpoint's very public, because I was one of the first people to write a very angry blog post. Yes. Oh, God, I have to explain all of Elevatorgate in like 10 seconds. Okay. Rebecca Watson got at a conference after explicitly saying in her talk, please don't hit on me during conferences. Late at night, someone got in an elevator with her at 4 a.m. and asked her back to her room to get coffee. And so she made a video later on that had other things in the video that said, guys, don't do that, because it makes me uncomfortable. You feel cornered in elevators when someone's propositioning you, which, come on. Coffee at 4 in the morning, we know what that means, all right? No one drinks coffee at 4 in the morning to stay up late later. Maybe I will tonight because I'm going crazy.
The video. She didn't make the video specific.
Oh yeah, the video was about other stuff. It was incidental. And someone was talking about the video, and it was starting to become a little kerfuffle, and then Richard Dawkins came in on P.Z. Meyer's blog and wrote this satire letter to Dear Muslima, talking about how, oh, dear poor Muslim girl, it's so sad that you had your clitoris chopped off and that you have to wear a burqa and that all these terrible things happen to you, but we have to talk about the real issues of someone getting hit on in an elevator in the United States. Because it's basically the oppression Olympics, so if someone else has a worse problem than you, then your problem doesn't matter, and you're not allowed to talk about it ever. Because obviously saying, guys, don't do that, took away all of her energy from ever talking about any other issues ever again. Yeah.
Well, a point of order, that actually happened in Dublin, but
Oh.
But we had her response to it.
I thought it was totally inappropriate. I thought he missed the point that, like I said, this isn't the oppression Olympics. Just because someone has it worse somewhere else in the world doesn't mean we can't talk about our problems, and it doesn't mean that we don't care about their problems. I mean, I can passionately try to help Muslim women who are obviously have it worse in theocracies in the Middle East than I have it in the United States, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't try to make my life better also. Actually, I don't think this is online yet, but at the Women in Secularism conference that was in DC, this should be on YouTube soon, but keep Googling for it. Taslima Nasreen had a great talk where she talks about her experience coming from a Middle Eastern theocracy to the United States to practice medicine here, and all the atrocious things she witnessed in the Middle East. Everyone in the room was sobbing. It was super emotional. But the point she made at the end when someone asked her is saying, basically like, we asked her, like, well, this makes our problems feel trivial. Like, we just get called bad names and get threats and emails. Like, we're not actually getting murdered out there. And her point was, you need to defend your rights, because you have something special, and you shouldn't ignore even the little things because it's only to get worse if you ignore the problems, and that you should care about it even if someone has it worse somewhere else. So I guess that's my take-home message for Richard Dawkins.
One more question? Anyone?
Sure.
Hare Krishnas believe that women's brains weigh half that of men's. But if I try saying that to people, they think, oh no, Hare Krishnas are light and fluffy and vegetarian and like dancing. What's a good way of talking about the fluffier religions like Buddhism and so on, the more popular ones without?
That's a good question. How to talk about the more fluffier religions? I just try to bring up when someone talks about like, well, if everyone was Buddhist, that would be great, because Buddhism is just this nice, peaceful, fluffy religion, right? I just try to bring up like, no, actually in Buddhist theocracies they kill people too, and you know, this is how they view women, and I think it's just part of the whole, you know, no religion should be free from criticism, because it's an idea like anything else. So obviously not everyone's going to listen to you, but if everyone just starts bringing it up more often, hopefully we'll get people to rethink these fluffy religions.
Well, Hare Krishna women dress almost like Muslim women. No skirts, under. It's a very good
Is that it?
I think we can wrap up. Thanks very much.
Thank you.